The Brazilian capital is now the headquarters for a transition team preparing for government.
General, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time.
CGTN was given the opportunity to speak to the Vice President-elect, he's a former general, to explore what changes might be imminent under a Bolsonaro presidency.
I'd like to ask you.
I asked him first about the Brazil-China relationship.
In Mr. Bolsonaro's campaign to become president, he was quite critical of the relationship with China. He said that China was effectively trying to buy Brazil. Now, we've since seen a bit of a rowing back of those statements. What will be the attitude of the incoming government towards China, which is the biggest trading partner?
Well,
with
we've
Brazil?
always been very pragmatic. Okay, China is a major player in the world today, and we sell a lot of goods, a lot of stuff, mainly from our agriculture production to China, and China has money to invest. So the same way that we have to be a global player with US, we have to be with China, and we have to find ways that occurs mutual benefit for both countries. Okay, not only selling goods and China selling something to us or investing something here in Brazil. So we have to explore the best of China, and they can explore the best of us.
Specifically, are you going to try and make this economy less dependent on commodities? I mean, that has been historically one of the big problems of Brazil and many of its neighbours, that it's all fine in the good times when commodity prices are high, but when they dive, then the government's in trouble.
Yeah, the problem is we have, our industry has been shattered by the problems that we suffer in our economy. So we are going to spend some time until we can recover our industrial capacity. We have to invest a lot in technology because, you know, we are in the moment of the industry 4.0. Okay, it's a different moment in the world. The association between artificial intelligence and biotechnology is coming very hard, so we have to be prepared to this. But at this very moment, okay, the agriculture production is much important because Brazil can feed the world. Okay, we can have a harvest of 3 times a year here. Okay, and so if we invest in technology in the agriculture, we can put good food in the table of everybody in this world. So I think this is a point we have to look with a very, very, very good way.
Now, Brazil can feed the world, but there may be an environmental cost to that, and much of the international coverage, really, of Bolsonaro's victory has focused on what might happen to one of the great world environmental treasures, the Amazon. You have this extraordinary resource in your country. Is the Amazon threatened by a Bolsonaro presidency?
No, never. We both come from the army, and the army is in the Amazon area, it's protecting the Amazon area. I lived there for 5 years. Okay, my father, my grandmother, they come from the Amazon area. I know that very much, we know that very much. And our agricultural production will never menace the Amazon area. We can improve our production with the land that we are already exploring. People don't have to be afraid that the Amazon area will vanish. But I think they can pay for us for keeping this in good shape.
The incoming president, however, has expressed the controversial view that protecting the forest for the sake of its indigenous inhabitants is misguided.
The indigenous people, they want to join civilization. They don't want to stay, they want to stay in the middle of a jungle without the facilities that you have today. They want to have access to television, they want to go to school, they want to go to university, they want to make money. They don't just want to stay like people that are still in the Stone Age.
Can we be sure of that?
Oh, for sure, for sure. They don't want to stay in that situation.
Contentious statements like that have led to suggestions that the tone of the Bolsonaro administration might be similar to that of the current White House. But the general said the comparison should not be overstated. His boss, he insisted, won't be a tropical Trump.
Mr. Bolsonaro has been a politician in the last 30 years. It's different from President Trump. But I think that President Trump is making a politics that's good for America. That's why he was elected. And so far as I know, people in the United States are happy with him, most people. Okay? And that's what is going to happen here in Brazil too. Mr. Bolsonaro has been elected in a wave of change, okay? And I think the way that we are going to govern Brazil, it's going to be good for our population in general.
The most pressing regional issue in the coming months for Brazil is Venezuela, its neighbour to the north. It is in economic meltdown. The general said closing the border was out of the question, but this is how he views the migrants heading to Brazil.
Venezuelans are running away to Brazil, and the ones that are coming to Brazil are the poorest ones, because those who had more money went to US or to Europe. I think the middle class went to Colombia and other Spanish-speaking countries that are neighbors. And here to Brazil is the lowest class that are coming. So it's a question of humanitarian aid. 90,000, 100,000, 150,000 Venezuelans that come to Brazil, it won't mess with us.
You're a former general, one of the very highest ranks in the Brazilian army. There are many people from a military background that are coming into this government. Many were elected to the new Congress. People are a bit concerned that this might be a sort of backdoor form of turning back the clock to a military government.
We in military, we have principles, we have values, and the population was looking for this. That's why a lot of military has been elected to Congress. In our case, Bolsonaro and I, we've been elected as citizens of Brazil. Okay, we came from military, but Bolsonaro is a politician in the last 30 years. I think he's more a politician than a military.
But he's very much given the impression that it is the army that can put this house in order.
No country can live without order, without authority. Obvious that order and authority has to be together with the law. Okay? Nothing outside the law, nothing outside the Constitution. And what has happened here in Brazil, that the law enforcement was very soft. We need to be more hard.
Brazil is still in the midst of the biggest political corruption investigation this country's ever seen. One of the controversial decisions Mr. Bolsonaro has made is to appoint the judge that oversaw that investigation as his own justice minister. The Vice President-elect said the appointment is not about closing down the inquiry. It, he says, shows how determined his government will be against corruption.
He is giving a serious advice to Brazil as a whole that the combat to corruption will be endless. We can't afford corruption. We can't stand corruption. It's a illness that Brazil has. And so we have to treat this illness, and we have to try to stop with this forever.
On the economy, President-elect Bolsonaro plans a radical privatization program that could include selling off part of the state-owned oil giant Petrobras, though not the entire company.
We have today, I think, about 147 state-owned companies, and most of them can be privatized. But in the case that you talk, Petrobras, it's an asset of Brazil.
And finally, on a sort of personal note, you're coming in as a vice president of Brazil. I think that of the 37 presidents in Brazil, 8 were formerly vice presidents. Now, I'm not going to ask you whether you want to be president, but you must have pondered the possibility that through circumstance or any other possibility really, there is a chance you could become president. What do you think?
Now, of course, that every time you are elected as vice president, you can, in some moment, become president. But I'm not thinking about this. I wish Mr. Bolsonaro because I believe in his ideals, I believe in his project, and I'm together with him like a Siamese brother. Okay? That's the way I behave with him.
General, Vice President-elect, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
this.